Hi everyone, it's Brian. I play Recappa. Thank you for your patience this week. I didn't want to post without acknowledging what's going on. George Floyd's murder is unacceptable. Donald Trump's behavior is unacceptable. And having to feel threatened just for existing as you are is unacceptable, and we should not accept it. So if you can, donate to causes, support Black businesses and Black artists. I will put some links in the notes. Make sure you're registered to vote. Hopefully some change can come out of all of this. I hope no one will feel I'm being disrespectful posting Wheel Talk now. Hopefully this can be a moment of levity during a really rough week. I plan to post a video about Egwene on Monday, and then a week later, I'll get back to regular chapter episodes. Walk in the light, everyone. Stay safe. Keep it Wheel. Mwah. Oh! Hello! Welcome to Wheel Talk. I'm Recappa Sedai. Today we're going to talk about The Eye of the World, Chapter 9, Tellings of the Wheel. This chapter is the Weep for Manetheren speech. I'm so excited for this episode I can't even. So, spoiler-free recap. Rand is dreaming. He's in this crazy place with barren hills, the clouds are black and silver, the sun is weirdly huge and bright, but it's freezing, and also, he's being chased by Trollocs. He runs to the top of a ridge and he finds himself at the edge of a cliff. Below him is this crazy, foggy valley. Sometimes he can see fires flaring through the fog, and sometimes lightning shoots up out of it towards the sky. This place is nuts. Worst of all, there's this huge mountain rising out of the fog, and it fills Rand with despair. Rand feels something calling him, pulling him towards the mountain, and then a voice whispers, "Serve me." Rand shouts at the mountain. He's like, "The light consume you, Shaitan!" Suddenly this figure in a red cloak appears and reaches for him. Rand tries to get away, and then suddenly he's falling. Oh my god, I'm falling! And then all of a sudden, he's not falling. He's standing on this rolling plain. In the distance, there's this mountain, but not a scary mountain, a regular mountain. Next to it is a river, and in the middle of the river is this glorious city with shining white and silver walls. Rand's like, you know what? I need to go there. I'll be safe there. Just when this is starting to seem like a nice dream, the air turns chill, and Rand feels something evil reach for him. Rand freaks out, and he runs as fast as he can towards the city. But the faster he runs, the further away it gets until it's just a speck in the distance. Rand trips and falls, and he's like, no, why do I keep falling? He lands on paving stones, which is weird, but this is a dream, so whatever. He's walking along with this crowd of really friendly people. They're crossing a bridge, walking into the shining city. He made it! Awesome! As they walk into the city, Rand sees this shining white tower in front of him, taller than all the other buildings, and Rand knows he needs to go there. That's where he'll be safe. But the city is so cool. He sees jugglers, he hears music. Rand decides he'll go to the White Tower after he's explored a little bit. He turns a corner and he sees the same white tower at the end of the street. That's weird. He turns another corner, sees the same tower. Everywhere he turns, everywhere he looks, the white tower is in front of him. It really starts to freak him out. The people look heartbroken. They're gesturing toward the tower. They're desperate for Rand to go to the tower. Rand's like, okay, I was gonna go anyway. He starts walking toward the tower, and the people are so happy about it. Too happy. It's weird. Children are throwing flower petals in his path. The people start singing this glorious song with harmonies and musicians. Girls are laying flower garlands around his neck like he just got to Hawaii. Rand starts dancing with the girls. He's like, this is way better than the other dreams. He reaches the White Tower, and as he goes up the stairs, this voice whispers, "It is your destiny." Rand's like, you know what? It totally is. The tower's huge doors swing open, and Rand goes inside feeling good. The doors crash shut behind him. We've been waiting for you. Rand wakes up. He's like, ah! Oh! It was just a dream. It's gotten dark outside. Rand eats and then he checks on Tam. Tam wakes up and Rand tells him what happened. Our sheep have been killed, our house has been trashed, the Trollocs burned half of Emond's field. Also, Moiraine is Aes Sedai and she healed you. Also, the Dark One might be interested in me. Tam asks Rand to tell him exactly what Moiraine said. Rand tries to remember word for word. Tam's like, well, Aes Sedai don't lie. Sounds like you gotta go. You'll be safe in Tar Valon, but remember, Aes Sedai do things for their own reasons. Rand tells Tam they have to leave tonight. Tam's like, well, maybe I'll recover my strength in a few days and I'll catch up with you. Then Lan sticks his head into the room. He's like, let's go, sheepherder. We've got trouble. Move it. Rand starts to unbelt Tam's sword. Tam says, no, keep it. Hopefully you won't need it. Rand hugs Tam. He says, I will come back, I promise. Tam says, of course you will. Lan's like, what part of trouble don't you get? We've gotta go, come on. Matt's outside the room with his bow. They follow Lan downstairs. The common room is empty. Lan cracks open the door and they peek into the inn's yard. Moiraine is facing a crowd of village men with her back to the inn. Hari Copland is at the front of the crowd and he shouts at Moiraine, leave Emmons Field! The crowd echoes him. Leave Emmons Field! Darl Copland's like, you brought those monsters! Billy Conger's like, yeah, it's your fault. Sen Bowie is like, we don't want your kind in the Two Rivers. You bring trouble. No Aes Sedai. No Aes Sedai. Hari Copland's like, get out or we'll burn you out. Everyone else is like, whoa, dude. Bran shows up. He's like, did someone suggest burning my inn? The Congers are like, what? No. Bran reads them all. He's like, are you seriously doing this after she saved our village and healed all your asses? Sen Bowie, I'm especially shocked to see you here. You really are the worst. Sen Bowie's like, yeah, I know she healed me and all, but she's Aes Sedai. Come on. No Aes Sedai troubles. Yeah, he's right. Send her away. Drive her out. We don't She want turned her me here. Into a newt. Suddenly, Moiraine whirls her staff over her head and white fire flares from each end. She holds the staff in front of her. These spears of white fire are burning brightly. The crowd backs away. They're like, whoa, what the hell? Also, it's blinding me. Moiraine says, is this what Aemon's blood has come to? You have forgotten who you were. Bran says, forgotten who we were? We are who we always have been. Honest farmers and craftsmen and shepherds, Two Rivers folk. And Moiraine says, to the south of here lies the river you call the White River. But far to the east, men call it still by its rightful name, Manetheren. 2,000 years ago, Manetheren flowed by the walls of a mountain city so lovely to behold that Ogier stonemasons came to stare and wonder. Farms and villages covered this region, and that you call the Forest of Shadows as well, and beyond. But all of those folk thought of themselves as the people of the mountain home, the people of Manetheren. Their king was Aemon Alcar Althorin, and Eldraine Ialan Icarlan was his queen. Aemon, a man so fearless that the greatest compliment for courage any could give was to say a man had Aemon's heart. Eldraine, so beautiful that it was said the flowers bloomed to make her smile. Bravery and beauty and wisdom, and a love that death could not sunder. Weep if you have a heart for the loss of them, for the loss of even their memory. Weep for the loss of their blood. For nearly 2 centuries, the Trolloc Wars had ravaged the length and breadth of the world, and wherever battles raged, the Red Eagle banner of Manetheren was in the forefront. The men of Manetheren were a thorn to the Dark One's foot, and a bramble to his hand. Sing of Manetheren, that would never bend knee to the shadow. Sing of Manetheren, the sword that could not be broken. They were far away, the men of Manetheren, on the field of Bekhar, called the Field of Blood, when news came that a Trolloc army was moving against their home. Too far to do else but wait to hear of their land's death. Too far to do else but mourn. But they were the men of the mountain home. Without hesitation, without thought for the distance they must travel, they marched from the very field of victory. They moved as if their feet had wings, marching further and faster than friends hoped or enemies feared they could. When the Dark One's army swooped down upon the lands of Manetheren, the men of the mountain home stood before it, with their backs to the Tarandrel. The host that faced the men of Manetheren was enough to daunt the bravest heart. Trollocs and dark friends in tens of thousands, and dreadlords to command. And dawn revealed the banner of Baalzman at their head. The Dark One could not have been free of his prison at Sheol Ghul, but there was power there. They must keep that host and the power with it from the mountain home. Aid was promised if they could hold for but 3 days at the Tarandrel. Hold for 3 days against odds that should overwhelm them in the first hour. Yet somehow, through bloody assault and desperate defense, they held through an hour, and the second hour, and the third. For 3 days they fought, and though the land became a butcher's yard, no crossing of the Tarandrel did they yield. By the third night no help had come, and no messengers, and they fought on alone. For 6 days, for 9, and on the 10th day, Aemon knew the bitter taste of betrayal. No help was coming, and they could hold the river crossings no more. Aemon crossed the Tarandrel, destroying the bridges behind him, and he sent word throughout his land for the people to flee, for he knew the powers with the Trolloc horde would find a way to bring it across the river. Even as the word went out, the Trolloc crossing began, and the soldiers of Manetheren took up the fight again, to buy with their lives what hours they could for their people to escape. Eldraine organized the flight of her people into the deepest forests and the fastness of the mountains. But some did not flee. First in a trickle, then a river, then a flood. Men went, not to safety, but to join the army fighting for their land. Shepherds with bows, and farmers with pitchforks, and woodsmen with axes. Women went too, shouldering what weapons they could find and marching side by side with their men. No one made that journey who did not know they would never return. But it was their land. It had been their fathers', and it would be their children's, and they went to pay the price of it. Not a step of ground was given up until it was soaked in blood. But at the last, the army of Manetheren was driven back. Back to here, to this place you now call Emond's Field. And here the Trolloc horde surrounded them. There could be but one finish. No man or woman who had stood beneath the banner of the Red Eagle at that day's dawning still lived when night fell. The sword that could not be broken was shattered. In the mountains of mist, alone in the emptied city of Manetheren, Eldraine felt Aemon die, and her heart died with him. And where her heart had been was left only a thirst for vengeance. Vengeance for her love. Vengeance for her people and her land. Driven by grief, she reached out to the true source and hurled the one power at the Trolloc army. In the passing of a breath, the dreadlords and the generals of the Dark One's host burst into flame. Fire consumed their bodies, and terror consumed their just victorious army. Now they ran like beasts before a wildfire in the forest. Thousands drowned attempting to cross the Tarandrel without the aid of the dreadlords. None was left alive of those who did murder at Aemon's Field. But the price was high for Manetheren. Eldraine had drawn to herself more of the one power than any human could ever hope to wield unaided. As the enemy generals died, so did she die, and the fires that consumed her consumed the empty city of Manetheren. Yet the people had been saved. Nothing was left of their farms, their villages, or their great city, but they and their children and their children's children held the land that was theirs. They held it when the long centuries had washed the why of it from their memories. They held it until today. There is you. Weep for Manetheren. Weep for what is lost forever. The fires of Moiraine's staff go out, and the only sound is the wind. Here's to the people of Manetheren, who gave their lives to save what they could and who they could. And here's to my girl Moiraine, who knows how to tell a story. Move over, Tom Marilyn. Pate Alcar makes his way to the front of the crowd. He says, I'm no thorn to the Dark One's foot, but my son is walking because of you, and I'm ashamed to be here. The rest of the crowd makes apologies. They start to go. They're all super embarrassed. Moiraine just read them for filth. Lan says to Rand, come on, we gotta go. Rand realizes this is it. They're actually leaving Emond's Field. He can't believe it. And that's the end of the chapter. Woo! This ends the spoiler-free part of Wheel Talk. The next part of the video is the 13th Depository. I'm gonna dive deep on the chapter and there might be spoilers. So if you haven't finished the series, I really recommend not watching this part of the video. I don't want to spoil the Wheel of Time for you. Don't make me that person. And if you haven't finished the series, this will probably sound insane. I pronounce this meeting sealed to the flame. So, before this week, I had a pet theory that Egwene was Eldraine reborn. There are similarities between their stories. There's an interesting parallel between Eldraine's sacrifice and Egwene's sacrifice, and since Egwene is a powerful channeler born in the place where Eldraine died, it always made sense to me. After spending some time with the story of Manetheren this week, I realized that theory is wrong. There's no way Egwene is Eldraine reborn, because there's no way Egwene, a powerful channeler, would have stayed behind in the city while her army was fighting a crucial battle. If it sounds like I'm throwing shade at Eldraine, I totally am. I understand people need a leader in these situations, but a good queen knows how to delegate. Someone else can organize the flight from the city. You're a powerful channeler. Why aren't you there? Your people are joining the fight with pitchforks and hatchets, and you're not going with them because you need to organize the escape? Are you kidding? When Eldraine destroys the Trolloc army, it's badass, but her timing could have been better. Like, a lot better. Egwene and Eldraine both sacrifice themselves to destroy an enemy army, but Egwene does it before the battle is lost. That's an important difference. Eldraine, who was so beautiful the flowers bloomed to make her smile. Eldraine, who completely forgot she was a powerful channeler while the battle killed her people and her army and her husband. But boy, was she pretty. Yeah. Anyway, moving on. Last week, I was super honored to be a guest on the Randland TV podcast. It was super fun. We had a great conversation. If you don't listen to the Randland podcast, I recommend it. They do a great job recapping news for the show. In this episode, we talked about the relationship between Rand, Elaine, Min, and Aviendha. Huge shout out and thank you to Greg, who last week in the comments referred to Min, Elaine, and Aviendha as the timeshare ladies. I love that. Mostly because a lot of people refer to those three as Rand's harem, which really is not a nice name for them. Timeshare ladies checks every box. It's clever, it's funny, it makes sense. Also, it sounds classy, which they deserve that after years of being Rand's harem. Rand does not have a harem. We need to stop calling them that. One thing I didn't bring up on the podcast, when they're in the igloo, before the igloo sex, I don't like the moment when Aviendha turns to Rand and says, "I keep running from you. I'm not gonna run anymore." And then they hook up. I hate that because it's like, she knew it was gonna happen, so now she's just giving in. I want to see her have a real human conflict and weigh the pros and cons. If Aviendha didn't already know what was gonna happen, I think it would be much more interesting. I have always felt like Aviendha's viewing in Ruidion and Min's viewing really get in the way of us seeing these relationships develop naturally. I want to see this happen because it's what they choose and what they want, not because the pattern designed it. I highly recommend this podcast episode. I will put a link to it in the notes. That's it for this week. Thank you for watching. Please share your thoughts in the comments, or you can always send me an email at letsgetwheel@gmail.com. Until next week, walk in the light and keep it wheel. Now get out!